So let's get started. You should have a notes sheet that looks like this. And whenever we take notes in class and we're learning new vocabulary, we're going to organize it in this format, and you're going to keep all of these sheets together so that you'll know where to find what a particular word means. And so if you notice this, where we've got a topic up here. And so what I want you to do in that topic is that we're going to put in here that our topic is points, lines, and planes. That's what we're learning about. Okay, see if you can squeeze that in there. So if you don't have those sheets, make sure you pause right now and get everybody one of those sheets and something to write with. Okay, so here we go. The most basic and starting point is exactly that. All right, our first term is point. What is a point? So a point is exactly what it sounds like. It's anything that you can point to or point at. I thought I had a picture of something here. So if I were going to point at something, I'm talking about a very specific location or place. And so let's see, there we go. Got my hand and I'm pointing at something. And so for a definition, this is a location, right? It has no size. It doesn't have any height or width, anything like that. All right. So what are some examples of points? Well, okay, I could point at this dot and say, I'm going to name that dot point A, right there. I could have another point down here and say, well, look at this point, right? That's point B. I could have a point out here, point C, etc. You get the idea, right? A point is just a single dot, and the way that we name them is using these letters, capital A, capital B, and capital C. What's a non-example of a point? Well, if I keep making this point really big, right, it kind of becomes a circle. It becomes something that has a height. You can see that it's from here to here. It has a width from there to there, right? It's representing something that's a little bit too big, right? Other examples of a point would be, in this case, you have many different points. And we could just list them out. You have the points K, L, M, N, Q, P, R, and S. Those are all the points that are named. And we also have, if we want to take our hand over here, where did it go? We also have our points. Just anything that I can point to is going to include a name. I don't know what happened to my hand. Something's happening to it. So I could point at, say, in between P and S, and although there's no letter there, there's a point there. So any location, anywhere on there that you could point to, that would be considered a point. And if we wanted to name it, we could give it a capital letter to give it its name. I'm having trouble with the point here. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's move on. So after we get through points, we could also include in a non-example lines, triangles. Those are not points. Okay. So our next thing is, what is a line? Okay. So a line has one dimension, right? And it extends in two directions. Okay, so one dimension, the extending forever in two directions. Dimension. All right, so how do we draw that? Well, we're going to, this is sometimes what we think about in terms of a line, but to show that it's going to extend forever, we're going to put on each end an arrow. So now these arrows on each end, here and here, indicate that that line is going to continue forever in both directions. All right? And the way that we name that line is based on whether or not we know the points on the line. I can put a single letter next to this line and say this is line M. But if I know that that line is going from one point to another, there's a second way that I can name that line. If it starts there and goes through here, say from point B to point C, I could call that line BC. And instead of using the word with line BC, what we would use is a little symbol like this. So we have two separate ways of naming this line. The order's not important, so we could do C to B. If I make a line forever from C to B in both directions, it's the same exact thing as going from B to C. If I have other points on there, I only need to list two of those. Okay, I only need to list two of those. So what would be something that we might think of a line, but it's not really? Well, in geometry, lines are straight. When you use the term line, you would be referring to above here. This would be what we might call a curve. Okay? But it would not be considered a line. Okay? Also, if I had a bunch of dots that were unconnected, right? These would be points, but not a line. So those are not examples of a line. Another non-example would be, we wouldn't want to say in the example above, if I had other points on there, say I had another point A or a point D. I never say B, A, D, C, right? We always use 2 points alone, okay? So that's point in a line. So take a minute and tell your partner, I would like partner A to tell partner B what a point is, and partner B tell partner A what a line is, and have a quick discussion about that.